What is up, you guys? Matt McKeever here, and so in today's episode I got a special treat. Michael Rosehart's going to break out for you exactly step by step how he built up his portfolio of 15 properties at the age of 25 and became a self-made millionaire through real estate investing. Michael dives deep into the details on this one, so I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Grab your favorite snack, pull up a chair, get comfortable, and smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here, and definitely share this video on social media. Sharing is caring. It's the only way I get new subscribers, and that's the feedback loop I need in order to keep making these videos. All right, let's just jump into it. I'll hand it off to Michael.
That's me. I'm Michael Rosehart. I'm a real estate investor. I am 25 right now. I'll be 26 this year. So here I am in London, Ontario, enjoying the financial independence lifestyle. Hey guys, Michael Rosehart here to walk you guys through the last, I guess, 6-7 years of my life when it comes from a real estate perspective. So how I acquired, I guess, 16 properties technically. I'll walk you through 15 of the deals and then maybe even the 16th that I just got, not including a bunch of deals that started in my name and then ended up in other people's names. I won't go into those details as much, but let me take you back to 2012. So that would make me at that time 19 years old. And 19-year-old Mike is just finished his second year university, going into his third year university, getting ready to go to the Richard Ivey School of Business. And he's obsessed with blogs like Early Retirement Extreme and Mr. Ray Mustache and a lot of those personal finance blogs. And for the first time is thinking to himself, I can make a lot more money with a real estate property that I can control than investing in, stocks and equities. And that was what I was doing, was doing a lot of trading. And so I thought, I can make a lot more money in real estate. So there's this thing that I read online called, you live in a house and you rent out the rooms, and at that time I didn't know it was called house hacking, but essentially you could reduce your cost of living significantly. And I had a friend whose parents bought him a house when he was going to university, and he was living relatively frugally. And it was just like, I want to be a part of that, and that was something I wanted to do. So my girlfriend and I at the time had been renting a really cheap place in London, and a little 1-bedroom / bachelor apartment. And we're like, this is something we want to do. We want to buy a house. And so the two of us together bought our first deal in 2012. And it was a single family house. It was cute as a button. The kitchen was nicely renovated, and it was a 2-bedroom house really close to the university. And the cool thing was she was going to college and I was going to university, so there's a college and university in London, and it just so happened that at this area of Oxford and Warncliffe / Western Road area, there's a bus that went directly to each one. So this house was in a perfect neighborhood for us. And I was extremely bullish on the area after having, seen maybe 20 or 30 houses. I decided this was an area I felt really bullish about. Areas like Blackfriars and Oxford Park. I ended up buying in Oxford Park. Really bullish on that area, and just thought this is a really good fit for us to keep our costs down while I go to school for the next couple of years and she finishes her school also. So bought the house together, the two of us. The challenge was getting a mortgage on this property and getting an A-lender bank mortgage on this property, which I ended up nailing down with Bank of Montreal. They took a chance on me, and I'm forever thankful because no one else would have taken the chance on us. In fact, I applied to like 6 lenders and literally no one would take a chance on a student who had a full-time job in the summer, part-time job throughout school, and a ton of scholarships and bursaries, which, I thought was more than enough to pay the mortgage. But obviously they didn't like that it wasn't a stable full-time job and that I was too young, which I heard a lot of in the next 6 years. So, acquired that house for $208,000 with an agent who was listing the property. We let them double end it, and we didn't really do a good job of negotiating. I probably could have got it for like $190,000 in hindsight if I had known what I know now, but I didn't know anyone really doing anything in real estate. So for me, it was just about getting into a property and getting started, right? And the basement was sort of nasty and unfinished, and it being a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, there were, some disadvantages, but I had gone into it with a plan to turn this into a house hacking machine. And so I spent the later half of my first semester, and actually went into the second semester of my first year in Ivy in my third year in university renovating this property. And I learned how to work with trades. I had no experience laying floor. I had no experience doing anything other than painting. So I learned how to renovate this property, and we added 2 more bathrooms. So it became, and 2 more bedrooms. And one of the bedrooms in the basement was sort of a, we'll call it nanny suite, because I didn't convert to a legal duplex. It was still open to the main floor and upstairs units. So that allowed me to increase the cash flow in the property such that we lived entirely for free. And in fact, we made enough profit from renting. We took one of the bedrooms, rented 2 of the other bedrooms for really good prices because they were large rooms, and one of them had an ensuite. And we rented the basement as an apartment sort of thing. And that brought in enough for us to live entirely for free and our food covered. So I went through school with no living costs at all after we acquired this property, which is really, really cool. I think that's something that everyone should do. House hacking is such an amazing opportunity to, build your wealth. And at the end of the day, that is the cornerstone of, I think financial independence, right? Is house hacking. So that was where I got started in real estate, and it really got my feet wet when it comes to, buying property, renovating property. And I sold that property actually later on, a couple years later in 2014 for $240,000. So not a huge profit actually, given the probably $12,000 or so I spent renovating it and all the time I spent on that property. So we'll call that a learning project, because I didn't even really do better than inflation, actually worse than inflation. So that's kind of a shame. And today it's worth about $300,000. So I definitely left some money on the table, but you have to factor in opportunity cost. I took this deal when I sold it and rolled it into 2 or 3 more deals. So that allowed me to really get the ball rolling as I built equity from paying down the mortgage and that sort of thing on the original property. So single family house, sold it from 2012 to 2015. You see there's not really any deals happening, and that's mostly because I didn't have anyone else in my network helping me and encouraging me to buy property. In fact, it was probably the opposite. There were a lot of folks sort of discouraging me from buying real estate, but that didn't stop me from looking at a ton of properties. I probably walked through a couple hundred properties in this time and offered on several. I was also at a point where I felt like if the right deal came along and they accepted my offer, that it was the right time. And I was probably offering too little and too many conditions and things like that. So it was a learning process, and I don't have any regrets in that sense. In 2014, I locked in a lot. So I decided that, my wife and I decided that, we've been working since graduating, we've been working our full-time jobs now, and we wanted to, start a family and build that dream house, right? And so I was like, how can we accomplish that goal while ensuring that we didn't end up like, I had family members who had built homes and couldn't sell them for the price that they built them for, because they added too many luxurious upgrades and they didn't factor in resale when they built. And so I thought, going into this, I'm going to build a house that is going to sell for maximum dollar. I'm going to think about the exit, even if that exit is 20 years from now. I want to be focused on having that exit opportunity. And so bought that land in 2014. We started the build process. I learned a ton about how to build a property in London, and I was pretty much on site every day, walking through that process with the builder and ensuring that things are going according to plan, let's call it. And there's a lot of learning moments there, and the house ended up being delayed, I think 6 or 10 months, and we ended up staying and renting in a condo for a little bit, and the builder ended up comping that, so it was pretty sweet. Got to live entirely for free. It was even better than house hacking because the builder screwed up, but that's neither here nor there. I closed on that in 2015, and we'll get to that. You know what, I'll do it right now. So I closed on it for $319,000 was the total land and build price, everything all in. That didn't include, however, the basement was unfinished, and I finished the basement after while I lived there. So that added a ton of value, putting in a 1-bedroom sort of nanny suite in the basement of this behemoth of a house, a 2-car oversized garage, 4+1 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, just a really nice, awesome house for, it was more than what we needed. My brother was living with us at the time, and it was just Elise and I. Actually, no, she was pregnant with our daughter at this time, so we were thinking about our family. And when we moved into this house, we found that it just didn't make a whole lot of sense and fit with the lifestyle of financial independence, and so we ended up executing on that. In the beginning we thought about that option of reselling for a profit, and we ended up taking advantage of that in 2017, which you guys can see. I sold it for, where are we at? $405,000, and unfortunately 6 months later someone else flipped it in the heat of the market for near $480,000. So that's fair market value now. But you can't think about the losses or the gains you could have had when you could reinvest that capital and make a lot more with that capital. So in 2015 I bought my first property, which I didn't ever live in. It was my first rental property that I looked at as sort of a cash flow investment opportunity. And working a full-time job in consulting, my goal was to find at that time a property that didn't need a lot of renovation, because I was really burnt out from having renovated my own house that I lived in. And I was thinking I just need something that's going to be turnkey, something I know, which was I knew how to rent to students, because in my current house I rented out 3 other rooms to students. So it was a market that I knew, I was comfortable with, and this was within 2 blocks of the house I lived in. So I thought, well, it's easy to manage, it's right around the corner, it's a really good fit, a nice little cute duplex, freehold. So bought that, again, 100%, no partners on that yet. We acquired it for $210,000. It was good to us the whole time we owned it. We sold it in December 2016 for $241K privately to a friend of ours who still lives in it now, and they're really happy because it's worth about $300 now. I used the capital from this to buy 2 more deals, these 2 right here. So that was definitely not a bad investment strategy, but again, I didn't have any knowledge going into this about what a BRRRR was. So you're noticing here that you're not seeing any of the terminology like BRRRR, because I didn't know what a BRRRR was. I didn't know that you could buy, renovate, buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, and then repeat. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know there were these strategies you could apply to your way of acquiring properties. And I didn't know about the 1% rule. In fact, both of these properties didn't meet the 1% rule. The banks really beat me up on the rates on the second one here, because I didn't know how to shop around for mortgages very well. I didn't know how to put together a good narrative to submit to an underwriter. So I could have done a lot better on this property, and I did end up doing a lot better on the next properties. So yeah, it's something to consider. The next deal was a duplex in 2015 that I acquired for $193,000. It was really rough. I was at a point where I was having a really hard time in my job, and I was obsessed with leaving that job, whatever it took. And so I thought, I'm gonna pick up one that needs a huge rehab, and I can build up a ton of sweat equity. And so this time, it's all about building the sweat equity with this property. $193,000. I renovated it a ton. I haven't sold it because I still own it. It's down the street from where I currently live, and I like this property, and the tenants in the property are really good. I estimate the value is probably $290,000 right now. I think I renovated it for maybe $12,000 or $13,000 all in, and I pretty much gutted the house. I used an energy rebate to maximize or minimize the renovation, I guess, and maximize the efficiency. So there's a Ontario energy rebate program where you can get up to $5,000 back for doing certain energy rebate things on this qualifying list. So like blowing in insulation in your attic and your walls, replacing windows, doors, putting in a new furnace. By the way, almost all of my properties, I've used this energy audit program. I've made like $45,000 from that program. It was such that I could get a furnace installed for $1,800 cash with this guy. It was a solid energy efficient furnace, and he would give me all of the paperwork I needed to get the audit, and I would get back from the audit about $1,700. So I was putting in new furnaces for $100, high efficiency, 95% efficient. So I did that on all of my properties. There were little wins like that I figured out, little frugal hacks where, I had a contractor card at, this is when I got the contractor card during this property at Rona and Lowe's and places like that, where I could negotiate really, really good deals, and I could price match loss leaders and apply. They would have like loss leaders from different flyers that I could price match all at, say, Rona, and then they'd have a promotion on for contractors, an additional 20% off if you spent $2,000 and free delivery. And I would smack all those promos together and be buying drywall at like $5 a sheet. So I leveraged what I'll call almost like the buying power of a bigger organization type thing, like a bigger contracting firm, despite having only 1 or 2 properties, to have really, really good cost of materials. And because I did a lot of the managing myself and hired really cheap trades off Kijiji, I was able to keep my labor costs way down. So I did probably that renovation, like I said, probably for half, maybe even a third of what it would cost me to hire a contractor to do that. If I hired a good contractor, maybe even a quarter. One that was really hands-free, that just, here's the keys when you're done. So yeah, that's something to think about is what is your competitive edge, right? And that's when, around this time, I started thinking about real estate in a big way, right? In 2015, where I was like, hey, I'm making good cash flow for my first couple properties. I think I'm good at this. Like, I have some sort of competitive advantage, and now I want to really exploit that to reach financial independence even faster. So my plan was always to retire, say at 29 actually, and in 2015, I'm probably, how old am I there? 22, 23? So, at that point, it's like anything to unlock financial independence. And so I went hard on real estate to unlock financial independence. Next deal we've got, what was this property here? Let's see if I can remember. End of 2015, I think in December-ish, I closed on this property. It was a 3-bedroom single-family house, and the basement was disgusting. It was a cat litter box, so there was just feces everywhere. Guy had, tons of stuff stored down there. It was being rented out for $900 a month, I think, to a family. And so I remember buying this for $175,000, and at this time I had started to read online and meet some people in London who were doing real estate, and they talked about the 1% rule, which was sort of the gold standard. And a lot of the properties I'd been buying were in areas that typically didn't meet that 1% rule, but I was now determined to find properties like that. And this was the first one where I decided it's possible to get the 1% rule, maybe not upon purchase, but through conversion. So changing the use of the property. This is the first time I realized that I could, add bedrooms or add bathrooms and increase the rents significantly. In this case, I took on a big project of turning a single family house into a duplex. And did this, again, 100% without any JV partners. Bought it for $175,000, and it ended up supposed to be a 3-month project to convert this property to a duplex, but it took me over a year. The City of London ran me through every single hoop, and it cost me double what I had expected it to cost me. Lost a lot of opportunity cost from a rent perspective because I couldn't rent the lower unit until they blessed it. But eventually I got them to bless it. It went from it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family house to a, 5-bedroom, 3+2 duplex with 2 bathrooms. So doubled the square footage by finishing the whole basement of this bungalow and add a separate entrance, cut in egress windows, fire sprinklers, fire separation, all of the things you had to do to make it 100% legal. Current value of that property, which I actually live in this property now. At that time I was like, we'll never live in this property, but things change. And like I say, sold the new build, moved into this house, began house hacking in this house. I also have a sort of we'll call it a garden studio, tiny house, shed studio. I don't know what the legal terminology is, but it's not a legal separate dwelling unit, but it is usable space for relaxing that I Airbnb on occasion. So I'm really maximizing the cash flow in this property now by having a tenant in the lower. I live on the main floor in the 3-bedroom. We have a massive backyard. My daughter loves it. We're happy as all get out because we've got the mortgage covered from the lower unit and utilities and property taxes and all the other housing costs. In fact, probably even including our cell phones and some of our food budget from this house. So we right now live for almost nothing in this property. Really glad about this property. It's my favorite property that I've ever bought because I live in it. Emotionally attached to this property. That can be a bad thing in real estate investing, but it can also be a good thing. 2016 now, I guess I've done 5 deals officially myself, and I bought a single family house for, I'm trying to think which property this was. Oh, this was a private deal. It's right beside this house, 2 houses down from the one I just talked about, where it was an older lady and it was very cluttered in her house and she did not want to list it on the market. And I'd been going around. In a conversion to a duplex, you have to get the consent of the 40 neighbors within a 1-kilometer vicinity. So I went around and had a petition sign and legal documentation signed from every single neighbor. I sat with each and every person for about a half hour. So that was a huge PIA, but it led to a opportunity. Sometimes when you're going through a hard time and you think it's a bad thing, if you look at it from a different perspective, you might find that you meet someone or some deal falls in your lap that you didn't expect. And that was one of those deals for me. Picked this up for 160 grand privately. That's all including, and she didn't have to worry about any of her closing costs or anything. I took care of all of that and just gave her an offer that she could take with her to her retirement living condo. So picked that property up from her. It was a BRRRR. I did a purchase plus improvements on the mortgage and got back technically more than I put into the renovation. So made a little bit of money, reduced my down payment a fair bit, and I actually sold it privately to a good friend of mine who got it for $237,500. He got it for a really good deal actually, because it's at least worth $269 now, and I just sold it to him only a few months ago. So that's the story of that guy. Next, we've got 2 more properties that I closed in 2016. This triplex, these 2 actually were bought together. The 2 deals were conditional on each other closing. So this was my first big deal in 2016. I think it was what, 365 and 365, 730. $730,000 was to me a big deal. This property has 22 bedrooms in it, 10 bathrooms, 6.5 kitchens, just massive, coin-op laundry. It was just a massive property near the university that was being run very poorly and was very run down and under market rents. So I took on transformation and evicted all 22. There's actually 26 people living there, so I slowly evicted them all and renovated both of these properties using a BRRRR strategy, so purchase plus improvements, but ended up selling them as part of my decision to cash out. And I don't know if it was a bad decision or not, but at the end of the day, I made some money on it, sold them in 2017, so not even like a little after a year later, because the market conditions were such that, you know, at that point, property values were really starting to grow, and I was getting really tired of dealing with some of the tenants. So that's why I sold these 2 beasts here. They were, to give you an idea, these guys were cash flowing gross over $10,000 a month. My net on it was $5,000 a month. So just this one deal, I was making my entire salary. And I was a manager at a IT consulting firm, and I was making my entire salary from one deal that I locked up. And I remember when I locked this deal up, this was the moment that in 2016 I realized I don't need to work anymore. My rental cash flow at this point is now like triple what I need to live if it's fully rented out, and I'm, you know, nothing major comes up, like no one destroys a house and burns it down, and let's say insurance wouldn't cover it. So barring any, major catastrophe or some sort of major recession, I was set that I didn't need to ever work again. So that was really, really reassuring, and in fact actually motivated me in 2017 to have the biggest growth yet. So you'll see each year from 2015, 2016, 2017, I acquired more and more properties. And that's because I just was so hungry for the taste of some great deals. So these properties, great properties. I bought some land in the start of 2017. I wanted to do another build project. This time I wanted to build it myself. I was gonna now hire a builder. I was gonna sub it all out and do it all myself. I did up the drawings. I went through a lot of the legwork to get that property, developed, and actually ended up selling it the same year in 2017. Bought it for 105, sold it for 111. Pretty much break even, made a little bit of money. Reason I did that was I was really just burnt out. You'll see when I scaled up the property empire, I had a lot of renovation projects going. And so when you've got 10 or 15 units that you're renovating, and you've got, potentially 10 subs calling you, and you're just stressed out to the max, sometimes you make a decision out of emotion. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the right or wrong thing, but it definitely impacted my decision to sell that land development project. I could have made 100 grand or 150 grand building this property and selling it as a student rental, red brick style, which would have done really well in London. The plan was good. Could have still been a good project, but I just didn't have the energy for it. And when you get to a point where, I did a little bit later on, when I'd made $1 million and over $1 million, I'd made, over $1 million in real estate in, let's call it really didn't start till 2015. 2012, I might have made 100 grand or something, but by 2015, that's when I made, say, 900,000 of that value in like 3 years. That's a ton of money. Like, I don't know what percentage of the Canadian population makes, $900,000 in 2 or 3 years, but it's got to be a small fraction. It made me feel like I had accomplished something, and someone said something to me that, it isn't real until you can hold it in cash. And so that sort of motivated me to want to lock it in and make it real. So that's why I sold some properties. Next, we've got a single family house slash duplex. It had sort of a nanny suite in it. It wasn't a legal duplex. My first ever joint venture. So up until now, I bought these properties myself. I saved the money working, Elise and I both working at our day jobs. We saved up the down payments, and we went the old-fashioned way and convinced banks to lend us. And this was a huge feat, because when you get to the number of properties and mortgages that I did, where I'd borrowed, probably near $2 million, my debt servicing ratios were not amazing. So it's a little bit of perseverance, a little bit of charisma, a little bit of presenting that business case to the underwriter. So all those things in combination help you to get mortgages. When people start saying no, you have to keep pushing and keep asking until you ask the right question, that eventually you get a yes. So it's about asking those right questions. So anyway, at this point, a friend of mine from Vancouver came to London and saw what I'd been doing. And at this point, I think I, was making money hand over fist. I was making triple what I was making at my day job, and I hadn't quit my day job yet. Still afraid to pull that parachute and jump out of that plane and jump into financial independence. But here we are with the first JV venture, 60-40 equity split, and that was a big renovation project. It was supposed to be a BRRRR. I ended up having him buy me out on the project for, to align with my goal of reaching that $1 million in cash. I decided to sell to him. So now it's worth probably 325. So he's doing pretty well from a buyout perspective. Things are looking pretty good for him in that perspective, from a value play. Next property I also acquired with him. So actually all 4 of these were with the same JV partner. Yes, so all 4 of those were the same JV partner. This one was a duplex triplex. It was zoned single family, but it was an 8-bedroom triplex, or it wanted to be, once I added an extra bedroom or 2. We converted it with the City of London. This was a real pain in my behind. They made me do, it was worse than the single family to duplex conversion. They made me do everything under the book. And I had experience with some rental licenses with other properties, but this one was a big pain in the butt. I had to get drawings done for the property, stamped by someone with a BCIN number, just a lot of engineered drawings, a lot of alterations had to be made to this property to make it compliant. A lot of electrical stuff had to be done, interconnecting smoke alarms and furnace being shut off by automatic, an automatic device, just a whole bunch of little things that we had to do that in culmination, I think the budget on this property was maybe around 65, after the energy audit, maybe 65,000 we ended up spending. And I think we went into it thinking we'd spend about 45. So if you're ever working with the City of London, prepare to have delays in your project to meet all of their requirements. Things sometimes take a little longer than you expect, and that's just the nature of taking on a single family to triplex conversion legally. So got the rental license, got it legally converted to a triplex, all 8 bedrooms blessed by the city, fire inspections, city, municipal standards inspections, etc. So let's look at the numbers in this guy, because this is a really sweet deal, and this was a really, really good one because we were able to get that triplex, making it legal triplex. That piece of paper alone was worth $100,000. So huge amount of equity I built on this deal here. Bought it for, I think it was 200, or was it 205? These might be mixed up. Anyway, so 205. Plans to BRRRR it and refinance it and pull our money out and keep it as a cash flowing machine, because for 205,000, we were going to be able to rent it for 4,000 plus hydro a month for rent. So it was 2% rule here in London, Ontario, right near Fanshawe, which is 2% rule properties are very rare to come by, especially that size. So as you get bigger, like as properties get into the $400,000 value range, it's harder to find them in the 2% rule. So this was sort of a unicorn property. like some other ones that I've had on the list so far. These guys here. Yeah, we ended up selling it to someone sort of privately. They had an agent, but we were representing ourselves. I sold it through Kijiji for $435,000. So 200, let's say conservatively 205,000 in, $65,000 reno. We're in it for 270 and sold it for 435. And you know, the market conditions were such that we were planning to hold this for a long time, but when you get an offer like that, and you know, when you put it up there and see what people throw out there, and they start throwing out offers like $435,000, and you're looking at making $200 and something thousand in capital gains in such a short amount of time, which is what we had, maybe 5 months, 6 months. So yeah, that was a really easy decision to sell. It's like when you are owning, yeah, it's kind of hard to keep a property, even if, you know, you're making $2,000 a month, let's say net income, which I was in this property. It's just it's hard to say no to that kind of money. So yeah, sold that one. No regrets on selling that one. Would sell it again. Next one here, we got this triplex that we bought last year's joint venture. 55-45 was the split we came up with. I managed that property, and to kind of give you a bit of detail on the why I structure the properties the way I do. I don't have any necessarily magical formula that says this is what you should structure your JV partnerships like, but we decided on 60-40 on these properties at 55-45 based on the amount of work that I had to do. I need to be compensated for all of that extra time that I spent at the property and that value that I was bringing to the table. So that's why we split the equity the way we did, and we both still made a ton of money at the end of the day. And it's sort of a hands-off investment for my JV partner, so that's sort of the advantage and the value there. This triplex, we bought it for 205, like I was saying. We did purchase plus improvements and refinance on the property. We got one of the tenants out of one of the units in the triplex, and we've completely rebuilt that unit. We ran into a lot of issues at this house. I'm still renovating this house right now, and it's still the bane of my existence. We ran into everything. Like, I had never seen this before, but I'll give you an example of a really weird situation where the plumbing in this house, usually you see cast, ABS, you know, copper, whatever types of PVC types of plumbing material. This was literally someone had formed concrete and poured concrete pipes. They had broken the cast and they poured with, they made it out of HVAC metal. They poured them and they put something inside of it so it'd have a pipe shape. And literally, like, you'd flush a toilet and it would run down a concrete made pipe with cracks in it, leaking water. I'd never seen this before. It was like the most Mickey Mouse plumbing infrastructure I'd ever seen in the house. And we had cracked joists, like just everything bad in this house. Knob and tube we had to have removed. So this house has still been the bane of my existence, but thankfully the market has been very forgiving, let's call it, because we've been in such a bull market in London the last year and a half that I think at the end of the day, it's hard to screw up in real estate when you're in such a heated market. So we'll still make, conservatively, this property's worth 300, and we've spent maybe 25,000 so far. So yeah, we're looking at, I don't know, $70,000 gain so far, just because most of that's market appreciation, I think. But this was probably one of my worst deals. I'm not gonna lie. I did the home inspection myself. I've actually never hired a home inspector ever. I brought family members through. I've paid contractors to go through with me, but I don't believe in home inspectors. I know some home inspectors, not in the city, but I know some that really don't know anything. And you know what? I know more than some home inspectors I've seen. So anyway, this time I didn't have an opportunity, obviously, to cut through the ceiling to see this plumbing issue. And there were some things that I missed, obviously. This was one I rushed. We closed on 3 houses in 1 week, and this was one that kind of slipped by. Anyway, so that's that story. Next, we've got this property that I bought as well. This one was also this just fell in my lap, this one. A guy was working on my kitchen in my new build just before he was coming back to do some renovation, repair, something with the cabinet, I think. It was under warranty, and he came back and he's working for this kitchen company, and he mentioned he had a duplex in London. And it was near Western University in a great area, and I was extremely bullish on that area. I had 2 properties right around it, and it was actually literally within like a quarter kilometer, a quarter mile, let's say, of where I bought my first property. So it felt like a good fit, and I worked out a deal with him privately, no commissions, nothing to worry about. He told me a price that he wanted, and I just gave it to him. We sat down, we looked at some comps, and I walked him through, how you value a property, right? The 3 valuation approaches, right? The income approach, comparable approach, and cost-based approach. So I walked him through how you value a property, and I just want to make sure he's really educated so that when he made the decision, I didn't feel bad, trying to nickel and dime him and take his house he's had for 7 years from him. So he gave me a price that he thought was fair. I ran the numbers, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to push on this price. This price is fair, and the price he gave was a little low, I thought. So anyway, took it and bought the property and was going to BRRRR it and refinance it. And then someone gave me an offer on the property, and I was also in the mindset of, disposing of properties and raising that $1 million of cash before I decided what I wanted to do next. I wanted to lock in some of these gains and make them feel real. Sold it for $319,500, I guess 5 months after I bought it. So that was an easy, I spent $3,000, I think, renovating I added an extra bedroom, which was like $3,000 for us to add that bedroom, and we added some flooring and some small stuff. But it was just a small unit renovation. I guess to make like $70,000 in 5 months is not bad. Next, we've got single family student rental here, which actually was bought here. Joint venture, 60-40, bought for $215,000, renovated the whole house, top to bottom. It had like 1.5 baths and 4 bedrooms, and we made it into a 6-bed legal with the city and 3 full washrooms, 1 with a walk-in ensuite, beautiful quartz kitchen, done really nice. It was going to be a good buy and hold. But at the end of the day, we sold it for $330,000. It's bought for $215,000, sold for $330,000 about 8 months later, because I was in that mindset of wanting to sell things, and the market was hot, and I thought, hey, you know what? Good time to cash in. So yeah, made a good renovation, probably $80,000 or so, and then we just split that, obviously. So net of renovation, about $80,000 profit, and then funny thing happened. It closed in September of 2017, and you know what? They relisted it on January 1st. So 3-4 months later, having done nothing to it, literally nothing, the exact same house, for $420,000, and I heard that they got an offer for $410,000. So they made as much as I did with doing nothing to it, and I rebuilt the house basically. So very frustrating is the word I'm going to use. When the market acts like this, it's very frustrating. That they're making more money with no skill than I'm making applying good techniques and below market renovation costs and things like that. So that just goes to show you, sometimes I guess the point I'm going to make here is 3 ways to make money in real estate, right? This is the way I started, was 1, rental income, right? You want cash flow, cash on cash returns. 2, you've got what I call forced appreciation, call it FA, and that's where it takes skill. These 2 take skill. You got to manage it. You got to put in good tenants. You've got to, forced appreciation. You've got to buy a property, have a plan for the best use of the property, use a BRRRR strategy, use whatever strategy you're going to use to renovate it and create equity. So you're going to get the renovation done below market, and then have it realize market value. So in a flat market where there's no appreciation at all, you make tons of money in 1 and 2, and that's how I always made my plays. The third one is speculation. So speculation, and that's through market appreciation. This is how some people in Toronto like to invest. This is how people in Vancouver like to invest, and it is a way you can make a ton of money in real estate, but it's not something I ever count on. It's not something I even run in my numbers. I don't even look at number 3. So some of these people who literally just flipped my property that I sold to them, they relied on number 3 to make money. They didn't do anything from 1 and 2. So in a bad market or in a flat market, they wouldn't have made any money. And that's not replicatable. That's not something that anyone can pick up and do. Anyone can pick up and learn how to do 1 and 2 and make a ton of money in real estate. And so that's the key learning point there. And that's why I don't feel bad about the fact that they made $80,000 in 5 months off me. Okay, so next one we have, this was a student rental. I bought this one entirely myself, actually. It says 50% split, and I'll explain that. So it's actually up here. Earlier in the year, I bought this property, and I converted it and it's a 6-bedroom student rental, sort of a nanny suite. It's a solid property near the college here in London. But at that time, I was really swamped with all the renovations going on, and I had some issues with bad tenants and landlord tenant board and things like that were happening in my life. And a good friend of mine, he kind of approached me about the deal, and I talked to him about the deal, and he was hungry to get in on a deal, and I'd want to experiment with JVs a bit more, and I've been enjoying joint ventures. At this point, I let him buy in at cost. So at my original cost, 4 months after I bought it, despite the fact that it was probably worth, we had this major spring rush last year that, everything I bought in February, I bought this, I think, January 31st. So, he bought in around the summertime. The market had appreciated quite a bit, but because he was a good friend, I let him in at acquisition cost. And at the end of the day, it was about this time, I had made already the $1 million, and I had already quit my job sometime in 2017 there. I think it was around this property here, sometime in March, where I, literally pulled the trigger and I was completely done. I think it was like March 5th or something that I was completely done at that job. And so being overwhelmed and all of these things, it was, one, I wanted someone to help me manage the property, and I didn't want to hire a property manager. I just fired a property manager, so I was super salty about that whole situation. I wanted someone who owned the property, that had an equity stake in the property, and I knew he could do a good job of managing this property for me while I took on these other projects that I was working on at the time. So yeah, I let him buy in half, and we went 50-50 on it. And best decision I made, because we had a ton of fun at that property. We've even hung drywall together, and just it's been good. Joint ventures can be, if you structure them with good friends, a lot of fun. And it's like what Matt always says, his saying about there's enough money to go around, and you can't always be focused just on the profit or just on the greed aspect of it. Sometimes you need to just have fun in real estate, and this was a really cool property to do that on. So no regrets. Really great joint venture, 50-50. Today it's worth about $289,000. Bought it for $169. Spent, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 grand total renovating the property, making it nice, putting in some quartz counters. 2018. Okay, so I missed a few things. At the end of 2017, I helped a friend of mine buy 5 or 6 properties, and some of them went and started. I negotiated the contract, but they closed in his name. So I've done a lot of deals where it could have closed in my name but didn't, and it's in a friend's name, and they own the property. I'm not on title at all. I don't own the property at all, but I was involved in those deals, so I consider those deals kind of deals that I've done. And then this year, I think I'm at 6 deals, but only one of them is going to close in my name, number 16, this duplex in my farm area, right close to where I bought my very first property. So this one's going to be a big BRRRR. I'm looking at purchase plus improvements for 50-something thousand, and that's at like my cost. So it's going to be a big project, going to be a 3+3 legal duplex. Pretty cool, pretty excited about it. That is my 16 properties, and probably I think I've done maybe 22 acquisitions now that I was like directly involved in the offer negotiation. So yeah, I guess with the sale of the properties, I'm probably well in the 30-something number of deals if you include buy and sell. That's me. I'm Michael Rosehart. I'm a real estate investor. I am 25 right now. I'll be 26 this year. So here I am in London, Ontario, enjoying the financial independence lifestyle.
That was epic, right? Michael really dived deep into the details on his projects, and I really appreciate him taking the time to share all the information he's gathered over his years of being a real estate investor. If you guys want to see more episodes like this, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and definitely check out the other videos YouTube wants you to check out. But if you're interested in being on Portfolio Porn, DM me, slide into my DMs on Instagram, or hit me up on Facebook, because I need more people that are willing to share their whole portfolio and break out step by step how they build up their real estate success. All right, until next time, remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point? All right, thanks guys. Bye.